More excited to see this coach's
Whoa,
face. Boom.
coach.
We got head coach Dan Hughes joining us. I'm not sure where he is. Coach, where are you right now?
I am in Beaver Creek, Ohio.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow. Okay. Beaver Creek, Ohio. Coach, welcome to the show. Congratulations on draft night. A lot to talk about here, but just, welcome. And what are your initial reactions following the draft?
Well, considering where we were picking from, uh, I felt really good about it. I mean, I thought that, we have a veteran roster and we were able to get a player that we think is long term good for us. Kit will not join us probably till 2021, but she brings a lot of international experience, a lot of skills that kind of fit the way we play. And then Joyner in the second. I'll be honest with you, if we hadn't gotten Kit in the first round, we would have probably taken Joyner. So we liked her upside and that. And then Haley in the third round, she's just such a versatile player with toughness that seemed to do well in our system. And so it was a good day. I had gotten to know all three of those players before the draft, and that doesn't always happen.
Coach, I have to talk to you. I mean, your roster is changing a lot from what it was last year because of injuries. You've got Brianna Stewart back, you've got Sue Bird back, you've added Morgan Tuck to the roster. Headed into the draft, what did you feel like the areas were that you really felt like you needed to kind of add some depth in?
We really felt in a couple ways. We wanted to help our 3 and 4 positions from the standpoint of bringing some depth and bringing some talents that fit within our culture, to what we do. We needed versatile players. We use the 3 ball a lot. So Kit was an 3 and the 4, I think at the pro level, and she's an incredible athlete. So that was that's something that fit really well into us to bring into camp. And then, Haley at the very end is the absolute. If you look at her statistically, she just plays the whole game. I mean, she passes, she scores, she rebounds, she gets to the line maybe as well as any player in women's college basketball. So, we want a competitive camp when we get together, and we wanted players that fit our culture, and I thought we did pretty good in doing that.
And I have a question about camp, coach. I mean, you guys are obviously a veteran team trying for a championship. So how do you balance your time between, trying to figure out what you have in these young players that you've drafted and also training your team to win a title and trying to get them to coalesce?
Well, I make no bones about it. My gauge is veterans. I mean, I gauge what we do by veterans. But I have a great staff, and I think the young ones get a lot of attention on the individual basis. And, we kind of treat a camp like an opportunity. I don't care how they got there. They're part of us, and we want to see what they got. But our staff does a great job. We treat every player like they're Sue Bird. Everybody gets, all the coaches, all the staff, everything, that we can offer them during that time. And we give them an opportunity. But I base what we do on our veterans. I base it on those key players, how we build our structure.
Coach, I'm curious. This is a little bit less of a draft question, more of an overall bearing question for the Storm. Obviously, last year you guys had some injuries, which really reshaped what your roster and what you were doing. Can you talk a little bit about the young players that were able to grow because of those injuries? Obviously, you don't want them, but what that does for the confidence of this team now getting back your 2 best players.
Well, take Jordan Canada, in her second year. All of a sudden, she goes from a backup to Sue to a almost 30-minute game player, and a key proponent. Probably the single piece that separated us oftentimes from winning and losing was Jordan. And she grew so much. I mean, she had the ability to play primetime minutes understand what it's like to be leaned on. And she delivered, and she delivered in some very key spots. Mercedes Russell is a great story. I mean, when we picked her up, we liked her, and she spent a lot of time her first year working on the practice court. And I could see her getting better, but we had a good team, and it didn't necessarily translate into minutes and games. But she took that opportunity, and boy, did she run with it. So those are two examples. Those are good stories. 2019 could have been a lost year for the Storm, but in reality, it allowed other people to grow their games, and it was not a lost year. We kept pace in a way that I think we were happy about.
Coach, one of the most common questions asked right now, especially through the media world on Twitter, about this draft. I know after about 4, things were kind of a big question mark. What were some of the biggest surprises to you in that first round, especially?
I was surprised Dangerfield kind of fell into her position in the second. I thought Minnesota got a good player there. The order that they went, I think we were prepared for those players not to be there at 11 when we picked, but I don't think I had any idea how the order would go. And, I think they prioritized some players higher than some projections were. And I think they probably were good. They took some players we thought were very good a little earlier in the draft than I had seen in other people's observations.
Coach, I saw that you said that Ezzy's going to come over, going to be in training camp whenever training camp is.
Yeah.
Does it feel like you're almost getting an extra first-round pick? And what do you think she's going to bring to the table?
Well, here's what I know. Alysha, our GM, and T, our assistant GM. I was with USA Basketball a lot in the off season, and they went over to see her play, and they were excited. They saw her actually play.
I love technology.
Oh no, Coach.
The interest in her growth is real, and it's not just the Storm, but I think basketball people are seeing a side of her that's attractive, in what she can do and the maturity she has. She's only 20 years old, but she's got a maturity about her, about wanting to get better. And I think she's made some fans in the basketball world. I think she was Rookie of the Year in the professional league she played in Australia, and I think she's winning over some fans.
Coach, we've got a couple more questions. I've got one, and then REA wants to ask one more before we let you go. You said you're in Ohio. Obviously, things are very unusual right now, but are you doing well? Is your family doing well? Is everybody healthy? What's your plan for the next few weeks?
Well, we're here. We bought a house near my daughter. My daughter was moved here to Ohio. My wife and I are both from Ohio, so we bought a house in the off season here about 3 miles from our daughter and grandkids. And my son is a junior, about to be a senior at the U.S. Or at the Air Force Academy. But they sent the underclassmen home. So he's taking classes and taking tests here in our house with us. And we're all well, but this is a real time. We live in a basketball world, and I've lived in it my whole life. But we're in a world right now where we got to take care of each other as citizens of the world, and so we're kind of entrenched in that. We're trying to do the right things.
Coach, I'm curious. I don't know if you've been watching. Sue Bird's been all over social media over the past few weeks, but she spoke about kind of having the mentality of being the defending champs going into this season just because of everything that happened last year. What's kind of your mindset for this team as the leader of this team?
A little bit of a combination of two things. I have tried to merge what we did in 2018 with what we learned in 2019. I spend every day a couple hours just working on our, putting together our thoughts, our play, our playbook, our defensive kind of things. And I'm incorporating what we learned in both years. It's not just last year. And that's a unique situation. You know, I've done a great job of cataloging and going back and looking at 218 after I finished 219. And I'm trying to merge those two things together, because I think, you know, when you take away Sue and Stewie from a team, obviously that's a different team. And I give credit to 219, but we're going to have those players back. And so we want to make sure we're hitting the right sweet spots with what 220 is going to be. And I think it's actually a merger between some of the growth of 219, but some of the things we did in 218. So I feel a little bit the same way. You know, people, we tend to kind of go under the radar a little bit in some ways, and that's okay with me, but not on the court. On the court, you know, I want us to define, you know, how we're going to play in 220 well.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing you back out on the court whenever that is. So congratulations, and thanks for your time again.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. Take care.
Thanks.